What is reality transurfing? Does it work? What are the major principles which underlie this concept, and how do we put them into practice in our daily life? Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, please consider subscribing and clicking on the bell for notifications. This is the channel to learn about literature and life. Reality transurfing is the philosophical self-help system developed by the Russian writer Vadim Zeland. His books which best articulate the system are Reality Transurfing Steps 1 through 5 and Transurfing in 78 Days, as well as Tufti the Priestess. Overall, the concepts contained within reality transurfing are gracefully conceived and very helpful. The shortcoming of Zeland's project might be that his specific subconcepts, such as the mirror world, the eternity archive, and pendulums, all of those subconcepts can be a little bit overwhelming and could perhaps be articulated more clearly. At the foundation of Zeland's rather complex reality transurfing system is the many worlds hypothesis from the American physicist Hugh Everett. The many worlds theory is now the mainstay of science fiction, especially since the Marvel Universe popularized them in the Doctor Strange movies and Loki series. Briefly, the concept, which was first proposed by Hugh Everett in 1957, states that there are an infinite number of parallel realities. At every juncture in our life when we could have done something differently than we chose to do, our personal universe splits into different possibilities. The basis of the many worlds theory is the revelation from quantum physics that an observer is never separate and distinct from the reality they are observing. This comes from one of the 5 disruptive implications of quantum theory. Specifically, the observer effect. That is, the act of observation changes the physical properties of that which is being observed. Once we get the basic understanding of the many worlds theory down, we can actually see how at one level there is almost zero speculation or hypothesis about this subject. In fact, it's completely true that our lives are affected by an absolutely huge number of variables, an infinite number of chance encounters, circumstances, and situations are constantly popping up in our daily life. So at this level, there is no hypothesis about many worlds. The mind-bending insanity comes in when we realize that Everett, and many other reputable physicists since him, have argued that the infinite number of reality splits never go away. They accumulate ad infinitum, and Zeland's theory rests on the exotic, tantalizing notion that, assuming these infinite number of parallel realities never go away, even more bizarrely, they are still accessible to us at later dates. Set aside your initial desire to scoff and make fun of this notion, and instead begin to consider something far easier to believe, but still very worthy of our attention, regardless of the possibility of our ability to access parallel universes and whether or not we could jump timelines. Please consider just for a moment all the million ways your daily life can change every single moment. We've all heard of the butterfly effect from chaos theory. We understand that there are a million billion possible ways that our lives can and do take shape. Before you dismiss any ideas of a multiverse or many worlds theory or the possibility of reality transurfing, take a moment to recognize that it is an absolute fact that our lives explode out away from us with so many bizarre circumstances far, far beyond our control. Take a moment also to recognize that for all of the positive, momentous, critically important good things in your life, that there were a dozen smaller disappointments on the way to that good event which occurred, which, in hindsight, were actually necessary for you to later come to the juncture of a really excellent outcome. This blending of good and bad in our lives is so dense and impossible to separate that when you begin to just contemplate and reflect, you'll start to realize that it is actually quite impossible to say that any one particular thing which happens to us was, in and of itself, either a wholly good or bad occurrence. This little mind game detour is necessary before we can begin to actually contemplate Zeland's most important foundational concept, what he calls the eternity archive. What is Zeland's the eternity archive? Well, he doesn't give a clear definition, and he also uses the term variance space and eternity archive as his name for the infinite number of parallel possible realities that we ever could have experienced in the past or can experience in the future. Think of the variance space or the eternity archive as an unimaginable, vast reservoir of infinitely potential scenarios for our life. Although it may sound corny, the idea of the eternity archive is expressed cinematically in Christopher Nolan's 2014 film Interstellar. At the end of the movie, as Matthew McConaughey's character is trying to communicate back in time through his daughter Murph's bedroom, the eternity archive for that particular episode of communication is represented by billions of bookshelves that McConaughey is flying by and through in an effort to find just the exact moment in time when his daughter is in the room in their shared past. That scene is actually a moving and visually realistic way to think about the eternity archive. An infinite number of possible variations on reality occurring in just one small bedroom. Zeland's The Eternity Archive is in a sense not even hypothetical. If there were some way to represent visually and abstractly the billion different possible outcomes and turns in our own lives, we could do much worse than to consider it as a fertile, unending, infinite layer of parallel realities which stretches on into infinity. Again, even without fully accepting the core of Zeland's reality transurfing, it is incredibly helpful to just think about and reflect on the billions and billions of different ways that our lives could have taken different turns. The real-world benefit of just taking the time to stop and contemplate this is that it frees us up from the bane of any success in life, which is the demon of habituated negative thinking. As we contemplate the vast number of ways that our lives could have turned out differently, and as we begin to practice gratitude for the hundreds of things about our health, families, work, and living situations, then we automatically begin to shift our life into a much more favorable future. And this, in fact, in a less poetic and less dramatic scene, is exactly what Zeland's overall project of reality transurfing seeks to enable us to accomplish. Specifically, Zeland argues that at any moment, in any hour of any day, we can begin to shift timelines, meaning that we can begin to take on a new set of possible future outcomes for ourselves. Again, this is actually not even remotely hypothetical. It is a fact established from positive psychology that gratitude, optimism about our future, positive assessments about the events in our past, and countless other almost mundane life strategies can and will improve our future. Now, Zeland's concept is definitely not completely original or without similarities to others in the self-development movement. Frederick Dodson writes in a similar manner in his 2006 book, Parallel Universes of Self. There, Dodson often simply uses the term infinity or consciousness to refer to the unending reservoir of possible outcomes for our lives. One of the clearest articulations for this concept comes from Deepak Chopra's 1994 book, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. Here, Chopra terms it the Realm of Pure Potentiality. What an absolutely stunning and perfect name for this concept, the Realm of Pure Potentiality. The key point to remember is this: regardless of whether it's referred to as the variant space or the Realm of Pure Potentiality or the Eternity Archive, the idea is the same. And again, it's crucial to remember there is absolutely zero hypothesis about the foundational belief. Our lives do have an infinite number of rich, emotionally rewarding and satisfying ways of working out, even better than we could have hoped for. The most important thing to remember about the Eternity Archive is that all we have to do is concentrate on two things: reminding ourselves to constantly be grateful for the million small good aspects of our life situation, as well as shifting into a state of present moment awareness to ward off habituated negative thinking. Once we do this, we have literally shifted into a preferential timeline that is guaranteed to bring us a much better future of our own lives. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel, and please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing for more videos on literature and life.